In this video, we're taking a look at Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of November 18th. We got that Eternals hangover going strong. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. And in this video, we're taking a look at Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of November 18th. Now, for those who don't know, Go Collect puts out a bi-weekly article that analyzes the hottest selling comic books based on volume of sales and eBay sales data. So, like I like to do on Mondays, let's take a look at the list and see what's trending in the market. But before I get into the article for today, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. But with that being said, let us get into the article here today. Of course, I will put a link in the description, and in case you didn't see my video last week explaining how the Go Collect hot list works, I will also put a link in the description for that one as well. But this week's list is really interesting to me because, you know, these are all books that we're all going to have a lot of familiarity with. We're all going to have an opinion on all of these books here today. And of course, this first one we got to talk about is on the number 5 spot. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 252, newsstand edition, up 45 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this of course is the first appearance of the black symbiote suit for Spider-Man. Now, this is a book that came out in 1984, written by Roger Stern and drawn by Ron Frenz. And this, of course, is a book that has gone absolutely bananas over the last year or so. I mean, I feel like you guys ever see Anchorman when they have all the anchors fighting in the parking lot, and then all of a sudden, like, they're in the Ron Burgundy's room, and he's like, "Man, that really escalated quickly." You know, I mean, I feel like this is that book that escalated really quickly. I mean, when I look at the numbers for this thing, I mean, talk about like 4xing, 5xing, you know, in the months of May and June. It was absolutely crazy what the prices were for this thing. And now it seems like we've got that correction going on, which is probably pretty healthy for this thing, because I feel like this is a book that, you know, everybody should have in their collection. And if those prices continue to be holding, I mean, this would be a book that would be an absolute holy grail for the average collector. So it's good to see that this book is becoming a little bit more attainable. But of course, we're also talking about the newsstand specific edition on the list this week. And, you know, it's really interesting because I had made a video, you know, some weeks back talking about newsstands versus directs and talking about the years that, you know, newsstands really start to become more scarce. And this book right here in 1984, I mean, a newsstand book of this wouldn't have been more scarce than a direct edition. So I feel like, you know, if you're out there hunting newsstands because you think this is the more rare one, I'm here to tell you that, you know, you actually don't need to buy the newsstand one. You can just get your hands on the direct edition one. But speaking of numbers, as we dig into them, we can see that there are 9.8s selling fair market value around the $550,000 range. $550,000. I don't think that that's right. Go Collect, you got a problem here. You got to fix that. All right. Speaking of fair market value, it looks like, you know, we can see a 1-year moving average around the $1,600 range and then 30-day moving average around the $1,800 range. So it has gone up a little bit in these last 30 days over its calendar year. Down here at the 9.6, we can see fair market value around the $500 range. And then generally speaking, when you go onto eBay looking for this thing, typically you can find this book selling around that, you know, $150, $175 range or so. All right, let's go on now to the fourth hottest book of the week. And the fourth hottest book of the week is one that, you know, guys, this book keeps on showing up on this list. It is Amazing Spider-Man number 55, second print, up 48 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, this is the Nick Spencer, Patrick Gleason, Amazing Spider-Man 55. This is the second print, the instant classic cover of this sort of like silhouetted Spider-Man. Of course, this being the second print is the red edition. And, you know, I'm kind of running out of things to say about this book. I feel like I talk about this book at least once a month here on this particular list. But, you know, it does make sense as to why it continually shows up because, again, we're talking about volume of sales, right? So all it takes is for this book to move heavily in the market, and we know that it's going to be showing up. And, you know, knowing the prices of this thing, they are still very attainable. So everybody is constantly going to be buying and selling these things, which should say something. I mean, there are a lot of people, a lot of collectors out there that want this comic book, and I bet that they want it in those 9.8 grades. So again, a book that I do think is a really great cover, is kind of an instant classic, and I'm sure, you know, over the next 10-15 years, this will be a cover that is cover swiped many times over. So kudos to to, Patrick Gleason for coming up with this cover right here. It is definitely a hot one in the market. And as we dig into the numbers for this one, we can see that the 9.8s are selling, fair market value, probably around that $50 range or so. I went onto eBay just before recording this video, and I could find copies, hovering around that price. Raw prices, of course, are also going to set you back around the, $5, $10 range. So it's not a very expensive book, but one that definitely moves a lot in the market. All right, let's go on out to the third hottest comic of the week. And the third hottest comic of the week is going to be Avengers Annual number 10, up 51 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, this is the first appearance of everybody's favorite X-Men, Rogue. Well, actually, let me stop myself. Is she everybody's favorite X-Men? Maybe Wolverine is everybody's favorite X-Men. Well, I kind of feel like every X-Men is everybody's favorite X-Men, but no doubt Rogue belongs in that sort of category of beloved X characters, and this, of course, is her first appearance. Now, unfortunately for Rogue, what do you got to say? This is, I feel like the comic community kind of knows this comic book as being, the absolute worst cover in all of comic books, especially for a significant first appearance that, relates to that of Rogue. But what's really interesting about this book, as I kind of look at some of the values in comparison to, say some of the other counterparts of characters that came out here. So if we're talking like first Rogue versus say first She-Hulk versus say first Jessica Drew Spider-Woman versus say first Mystique, books that all kind of came out in that Bronze Age time around the same time. This book actually kind of holds its value overall. So if you're out there who, is someone who is anti-covers matter, this is the book for you that sort of supports the cause against covers not being the most important factor for a value of the book. But I digress. Why this book has gotten so hot this week, Matt points out in the article that it is possible that, a lot of this book has been being bought and sold simply due to the fact that we got that X-Men 97 announcement on Disney Plus Day, and maybe people got really, really excited again for those X-Men keys, especially the ones related to, that show. We're thinking about Gambit, Jubilee, Rogue, all those specific X-Men characters that were sort of like nostalgic. It feels like we've been seeing a lot of those books kind of moving in the market recently. But as we dig into the numbers here, we'll see that there are 9.8s selling fair market value around the $1,650 range. We know we go down here to the 9.6, it looks like fair market value around the $500 range, 9.4, $350, and so on and so forth. 30-day moving average at the 9.8 is around $1,400, so a little bit, lower than it, was, say, over the course of the last calendar year, but that's to be expected because it feels like overall the comic market in the month of November is a little bit cheaper than it was, say, in the months of May and June. But this, again, is a book that, I feel like is still kind of holding its value overall in comparison to its counterparts. So, again, a book that even though it has an ugly character, just goes to show how popular that character, Rogue, really is in the comic book market. All right, let's go on now to the second hottest comic of the week. And the second hottest comic of the week is one that I think is one of the more interesting books out of the Eternals run. And that, of course, is Eternals number 3, up 86 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, this is the first appearance of the character known as Cersei. Now, if you guys saw Eternals, you would know that Cersei is played by Gemma Chan. And without going into too much of heavy spoilers, I think it's safe to say that Gemma Chan is probably the star of the movie, or at least it is her story that we are mostly following in the film. And this is a book that actually, if we rewind the clock back about a year ago, I actually talked about this book as being, undervalued in the market. In fact, actually, when I think about it, I've been on YouTube now for about a year doing comic book content. So kudos to me, I guess. But one of the first videos I made was talking about undervalued books. And I specifically mentioned this one right here because of the fact that we knew that Gemma Chan was, really, being set up to be the star of the Eternals film. And if you were to have bought this book at the time when I was saying it was undervalued, you would have definitely gained a ton of ROI had you sold it at the right time. Because now when we look at this book's numbers, it's shot back down to around prices that it was, say, all the way back to around January. So it feels like, the market has really, really turned on the Eternals books overall. And I think that, say what you will, the movie has mixed reviews. I'm not going to go into what I thought about it yet because I want to keep this show spoiler free. But definitely it feels like a lot of the reason why we're seeing these Eternals books on the Go Collect list this week is that people are definitely either selling their copies or wanting to get rid of them. We're done with the hype. People no longer believe in this stuff. But I feel like if you're on the other side of that argument, maybe you're someone who loved the movie. I feel like there's never been a better time to buy these Eternals keys, because even when we look at the numbers, say even pre Eternals movie announcement, I mean, you can find some of these books being sold at around those same prices, especially a book like this right here, Eternals #3. And I think it's pretty safe to assume that we are going to see the Eternals again. I know there's a lot of people saying that they're not going to make an Eternals #2. To me, it doesn't really matter. We're definitely going to be seeing Gemma Chan play Cersei in some kind of Marvel property again and again and again throughout many years with this movie franchise. So I feel like this is a book that will still be a key book moving forward. And I think that actually, if you're someone who believes in that character, this might actually be a decent time to buy this book. And maybe that's why a lot of people are starting to accumulate it now. But as we dig into the numbers for this one, we'll see that the 9.8s are selling fair market value around the $675 range. We can see the 1-year moving average was $928. Now 30-day moving average is $720. So definitely a good time to pick this thing up. Fair market value for the 9.6 is around $290, 9.4, $190, and so on and so forth. And when we look at the low grade, or we look at the raw books selling on eBay, this is definitely a book that you can find for steal right now. You can find copies on eBay selling around that $15, $20, $30 range or so. All right, and let's go on now to the hottest comic of the week. And the hottest comic of the week is one that is related to Eternals #3. And this book, of course, is Eternals #2, up 92 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of the character known as Ajak, who was played by Salma Hayek in the Eternals film. But more importantly, this is also the first appearance of the Celestials, and specifically that of Ereshkigal the Judge, who was one of the Celestials in that Eternals film. Now, I forgot to mention that these Eternals books are written and drawn by Jack Kirby, of course, but you guys already knew that. And this is a very, very cool book, in my opinion. This might be the one book of this entire Eternals run that, I'm not going to say is going to be the most valuable of all the books, but might be the book that holds its value the most over the next few years or so. And that's due to the fact that I feel like the Eternals movie really set up the importance of the Celestials overall. And it feels like, maybe some years in the future, we're going to get, say, an Avengers event crossover where they're going to have to go up against the Celestials. Or maybe we're going to get Galactus, and Galactus is going to have to fight Ereshkigal the Judge, and it's going to be some crazy battle, in cosmic space. So I think that this book is always going to be interesting for people to own, because of the fact that Ereshkigal the Judge seems to be like an important factor now in the MCU. And even if you're someone who didn't love, the Eternals film, or even loved Jack Kirby's Eternals, I feel like most people still think that the Celestials are still pretty cool and pretty interesting overall, because they've had so many stories in Marvel Comics throughout the year. So I think that this is always going to be a great key, because Ereshkigal the Judge is a really interesting cosmic character. But like Eternals #3, and actually Eternals #1 as well, this is definitely a book that has taken a little bit of a correction in the market. And as we dig into the numbers for this one, we'll see that there are 9.8s selling fair market value around the $2,300 range. I'm not really sure if that number is totally accurate right now, considering the 30-day moving average is $1,350. We can see the 1-year moving average was $1,522. And look at the charts for this thing. I think this is absolutely crazy. You can see how high this book was in the middle of the summer. Look at that, a sale on the record for $3,300. Now it's already down to $1,100. But if we rewind the clock, say like back to a year ago in 2020, it was around $750. And say maybe the announcement in 2019 of the film, right here you can see this book at $1,100. So if you're someone who can find a book at the 9.8 range for $1,100 right now, it feels like this is a pretty good place to buy, because we're going to see Ereshkigal the Judge again. We've already seen that the values of this book was safely around $1,000 even 2 years ago. So it feels like this is still a pretty good new floor to buy this book. And maybe that's one of the reasons why, it's showing up on the list this week, because of the fact that it is such a good time to buy it. If we look at the fair market value for the 9.6, we'll see that its fair market value around the $475 range, and then 9.4 value around the $325 range. And when I go into eBay looking for this thing in the raw grade, you can find copies selling around that $40, $50, $60 range or so. Well, that is all I have for this video. Those were Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of November 18th. A lot of interesting books on there. I feel like a lot of books that are being sold on the other end of their respective movies. I mean, that definitely seems to be a trend in the comic book market. Like once we get the hype of the movie, once we actually get the thing that we're excited about, we kind of don't care anymore, and we all decide that we want to sell our books. But that might be a great time to buy. So, case in point for things in the future, if there's characters and books that you actually missed out on due to the hype of a film, just wait till the other end of the movie and you can definitely find a good deal on that book. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and we'll see you in the next video.